Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. There have been some major development changes in the way that CIG plan their patch cycles and roadmaps. Star Citizen is moving to a 6-monthly staggered development cycle, but what does this mean exactly, and how's that going to affect the patches and what we're getting each year? Staggered development changes the way the dev teams, focus on roadmaps and the quarterly releases. Instead of focusing mostly on the next patch in the cycle, so 3.7 in this case, for example, they look at the next 2 patches. We're still going to have quarterly releases though, so bear that in mind. They split the various development teams between 2 delivery dates and patches. This puts teams into a cadence whereby they are delivering larger features every couple of quarters instead of every quarter, but due to their staggered nature, you would still receive an update every quarter. They basically overlap 2 teams on the features that they're working for. An example of this is half the dev teams are going to be working on 3.7 features and tech and content, while the other half are going to be working on 3.8. Once the feature teams have finished work on 3.7 and they deliver the patch, they then don't move on to 3.8. They've already got teams working on 3.8. They work directly then and transition to 3.9. So then you have some teams working on 3.8 and some working on 3.9. Yes, they might mix up some of the teams sometimes and get people to move around for various reasons, but that's the sort of like main way they're going to be doing developing. They're splitting most of the dev teams that are working on the persistent universe into the next patch and the patch afterwards. In that example, once the devs finish work on 3.8, they move straight onto 4.0. Staggering teams like this means 6-month cycles for development instead of 3-month cycles. CIG have said that this should allow them more time to ensure features are more complete with fewer bugs, and we should judge CIG for that when we start getting patches like 3.8 and onwards. These patches should be less buggy and more playable. CIG have chosen to do this to improve delivery. They'd been slipping by a few weeks on each of the recent patch deadlines, and they also had these interim patches as well, which aren't ideal. CIG have stated that this change will result in higher quality with fewer bugs each patch, but this has caused a big reshuffling in the roadmap. They acknowledged that the game's still an alpha, bugs are to be expected, but having teams focus on features in 6-month blocks means they can add more to those features and they can polish each of those patches a lot more. This could lead to features being closer to their final intention when they actually come into our hands for the first time and have a bit more meat on their bones. Conversely, this approach gets backers testing it a bit further along in its development cycle. That has both positives and negatives. I actually quite like having a feature at its earliest possible stage so I can discuss that feature and have the devs take that sort of like those ideas and opinions on from the get-go. But features will certainly see more thorough testing before hitting live servers like this. According to CIG, this change should reduce the risk of delivering patches late because it gives them more time to prepare the PTU and live releases, and makes Star Citizen a more polished, working and fun game for everyone to enjoy. We'll have to wait and see if that is true, but that does make sense for the way they are trying to develop the game. They are trying to release each of these alphas as basically these little polished own updates to the game. They market it as such anyway, so they might as well start trying to get them up to a good gameplay standard that isn't buggy as hell. In the short term and for 3.7, this does mean that that patch is going to be a bit lighter in terms of features because of those changes. However, they say as they ramp up and enter into a rhythm with staggered development, the goal is to have every patch as robust as previous patches prior to staggered development, but in a more polished and timely state. They have also said that they're going to be more active with communicating roadmaps, patches, and updates as well. I will believe that when I hear it, but again, that makes sense. If CIG are more transparent with exactly what is changing on the roadmaps, exactly what features they're developing and what they're updating, and they're just active in communicating that, because, I mean, they're relatively transparent, but they're not active enough in communicating those changes and updates. So get on that, perfect. The ship pipeline should suffer less in the short term from these changes though, because they had already been using staggered development for quite a while. On the roadmap, as I said, there's been some major changes, but there's also now the addition of Alpha 4.0 added there. Some features have moved off the visible roadmap, but those features are still planned and being developed. There's also some new features on there too. The roadmap we currently have shown is sort of like mid-planning, and that's what I would actually expect for the near future as well. Yes, they're going to have much more accurate patches on the roadmap for like the next 2 patches, but I would expect bits and bobs to change around in that roadmap more actively as they are sort of still deciding changes and exactly what's getting scheduled at the moment internally, and then obviously every couple of major patch cycles they will probably look at that roadmap again and make sure that the next 2 patches are where they want them to be, got the features they want in them. Therefore, some features and release dates are actively being discussed and prioritized at the moment, and they are going to land in their proper places once those discussions are completed. And that's one of the other reasons you might not see some features on there at the moment. It's because they are working out where they're going to be placed. This isn't just a change for Star Citizen. Squadron 42 is moving to this approach as well. Squadron 42 Episode 1, its beta has now been pushed back by a quarter, so 12 weeks. It's now planned for a feature-complete beta, Q3 2020. CIG see this change as a good thing for Squadron 42 and for Star Citizen, because they share a code base. As the features come online for both games, they will be in a more playable state, reducing potential blockers that can hinder and slow down development, so we're much more likely to see features subsumed and ready for the persistent universe. CIG are going to be answering a ship ton of questions about staggered development and Star Citizen's roadmaps and all that sort of stuff on the 6th of September in Star Citizen Live. I will post the question gathering thread in the description below. Alpha 4.0, as I said, is on the roadmap, but at the moment it is very light content-wise. They are planning to add more onto that once they have more clarity on timeframes and content for tech. As I said, it's likely that we'll have relatively accurate roadmaps for the next 2 patches, and then they'll keep on seeing like movement in the 2 patches or 3 patches after that. So what can we expect with these changes? Well, we're still getting 4 major Star Citizen patches a year. We should see better and more stable gameplay in the future, so better server stability, better client stability, less bugs, more playable gameplay. So missions just not bugging out and stuff like that, boxes not falling through things, NPCs spawning the right locations so you can complete all the missions. That's the sort of stuff that I would expect to see in patches moving forward now. So we should see more complete features each patch as well, so a bit more meat on the bones of each feature, less time wasted on planning, so the planning cycles are obviously, they don't have to constantly replan for each patch now. Star Citizen Alpha 3.7 and 3.8 might suffer from this in the short term though, being a bit more feature light. This could potentially lead to longer development time in my opinion, but that does come with some of the benefits that I've listed above. Conversely, it could have just like a bit of a delay on the 3.7 and 3.8 patches, with well, at least having lighter patches, maybe not delays, but after that we could actually see a more efficient development sort of cycle. Because of this, CIG are going to be spending less time on interim patches and hotfixes and subsuming branches, and that's where a lot of time was going with CIG. They were having to branch off something that they didn't necessarily want to branch off, that was slowing the game down, just to get hotfixes in or to get the 890 jump in or whatever. Delays are still possible even with this sort of like new cycle, but they are less likely delays. The roadmap and development cycle could see other major roadmap updates in the future. It doesn't preclude that in the new development cycle, but hopefully this will be something that they stay with for a long period of time until it doesn't become appropriate anymore. CIG should be relatively responsive in changing up their plans based on what the community wants, based on what's good for the game. If this works, great. If it doesn't, then they'll change it again. In fact, as I understand it, CIG will be working on the next major branch, say with like 3.7, but then working on 3.8 features without branching them off until 3.7 is complete. So basically they'll be working on 3.8 features in the game dev branch and working on 3.7 as a branch release. And then basically they branch off 3.8 once 3.7 is completed and they've subsumed all of the sort of updates and bug fixes they made in the PTU phases and all that sort of jazz back into game dev. Then they branch 3.8 off, and then the team that was working on 3.7 starts working on 3.9. So yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it. Hopefully it will be significantly more efficient. What do you think? Do you think it's good for development and efficiency, getting Star Citizen patches into a better state before release? Is it just a sign of more delays and slowing down of development? Should CIG be focused on getting rough features in, or sort of like taking more time on making these features more functional and closer to their final intentions? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I will get a full breakdown of each of the updated roadmap patches shortly. Every month we have a giveaway. For August, we are giving away a Drake Corsair bundled with an 8-inch Fire tablet and 12 months of Game Glass. Game Glass makes software allowing you to turn touchscreen devices, like tablets and mobiles, into immersive controllers for Star Citizen. But not just Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous is getting support next, and there's plans for lots more games to support this. You can use Game Glass for free, but there are paid options as well, giving you even more functionality. Please follow the links down below to get more info or to download. I'm still also shilling for NordVPN. If you're looking for a VPN, they are very cheap and have many benefits over free services. They help protect you and your privacy online, but it also makes it easier to access various websites as well. And there's Shadow 2, giving you remote access to a Windows 10 gaming PC of your very own, so that you can effectively turn any appropriate device, your smartphone, a computer, a laptop, whatever, into this much more beefy machine. Subscription cloud services, in my opinion, are the way forward, and for some are going to be very appealing instead of sort of maintaining their own PC. For all of those, please follow the links below or use the code BoredGamer to get a discount. A massive thank you for watching. Please consider liking and sharing this content, as well as pressing the bell icon to get informed when a video goes live. Consider Patreon or becoming a YouTube member too if you'd like to further support the channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Please take care, and I'll see you in the verse.